Hello and welcome to Coffee with Carey. Thank you for stopping by today to check out my 5 things that can go wrong on a first date and how you can maneuver your way out of those things and save yourself. If you're new here, I'm Carey. I'm a matchmaker and a dating coach in the Chicago area. This is a channel for women in their 50s. We talk about beauty, fashion, makeup, the dating stuff, obviously. I hope you'll subscribe and hit that ring bell button so that you can come back and not miss anything. Today we are delving into those 5 nightmares and how to handle that. If that's interesting, stick around. That's what we're doing. As you can imagine, being a matchmaker, I have sent out hundreds, thousands of dates probably, and then I get to hear the crazy stories from my other matchmaker friends. So if something bizarre has happened on a date, I've probably heard about it, if not experienced it. And I've got 5 that I've probably heard of more than once. And I thought about this, and why not be forewarned is forearmed? Isn't that what they say? So I've got 5. And the first one would be somebody who is a no-show. It's happened to me, actually. I had plans and I kind of got there. I didn't go in, but I was waiting for that next communication. I had just talked with him 20 minutes before, but now when I'm reaching out saying, "Are you inside?" he didn't respond. And he totally blew me off. I traveled pretty far for that day too. So what do you do when somebody doesn't show up at the scheduled time, at the scheduled place? Now I have to give you a side story here, because the first date with my ex-husband, my kid's dad, a great man I was married to for over 20 years. Our first date was at a place I chose called Mondays. And I chose it because they had fabulous crab meat burgers and I was craving one. However, while I was sitting at Mondays waiting for him to show up, he did not. As I was decided to leave, not wait any longer, he was walking in saying, "I am so sorry, I was at Fridays." So my children almost didn't exist because their father and I were at 2 different days of the week. I don't think Fridays ever had a crab meat burger, so I don't know what he was doing there, but it all ended well. And by ending well, I mean that we went back inside and I got that crab meat burger that I was craving. But on this date that I'm mentioning of my own, just a no-show. It just blew me off right before the date was supposed to take place. And that has happened to clients too, where they don't even give me, the matchmaker, a heads up that something came up or they changed their mind. And it's just such bad manners. Please, I beg of you to, if you know anybody dating and they say, "I'm not feeling it," or "I just don't think this is going to work, I don't want to do that," please encourage them to be forthcoming and be honest. There's nothing worse than when I have to let a client know last minute that somebody is canceled, but even worse for them to get dressed up and get themselves to this place in a timely manner and think that they've got somebody there who's interested in getting to know them, and it just feels sad when nobody shows up. So if that were to happen to you, it does. So don't take it personally. Some people are wimpy when it comes to canceling a date. It's not you, it's them. So remind yourself of that. Give them a few minutes. I don't know if you're communicating by text. You can say, "Hey, how many minutes out are you? I'm sitting at the table to the left of the door," something like that. If you don't get a response, I think 15 minutes is what I would say is a fair time to wait for somebody to show up. And if they don't, 2 things have happened on the dates I've planned. Sometimes my clients have said, "You know what? I'm here, I'm dressed up, I'm feeling good. I'm just gonna go sit at the bar, see who walks in." They've had a nice time. I don't recall that anybody's made a true connection. I would be lying if I said somebody met their husband at the bar that night. It's a great story, but it's not true according to my experience, but I'm sure it's happened for someone. So go sit at the bar and make some friends. Just talk to some people, have a nice evening out, enjoy your own company. And if that person messages you with a great excuse, up to you. For me, if somebody does that to me, I'm not recommending my clients go back out with them again if they couldn't find a way to get to a phone or borrow somebody's phone. If you want to give them a second chance, that's up to you, but it would have to be extenuating circumstances for me to encourage anyone to put themselves out there again after being stood up. Number 2, as you can imagine, because I deal with blind dates all the time with clients, is that somebody's first impression is not what you were expecting. You're caught off guard. Either there's a lot of different things that could happen, especially if you're just going off of some pictures and you haven't made the investment of time to have a video chat, that somebody doesn't look like their pictures, or maybe I didn't describe them well enough to my client, but for you that might be somebody was dishonest on their profile and said they were a certain height, or you just pictured them. Numerous things that could come up where you're just, oh, this isn't what I imagined. And all I'm going to say about this, the way to handle it, is to practice your poker face. I had a male client a while back, and I remember the gal I sent him out with, really nice lady, and she said that she could tell when she walked in by his face that she was not what he was expecting. And it kind of made her feel sad. She just didn't feel, she felt that she let him down based on his expression. And I had to talk into him, and I said, you've got to master the poker face. I don't care if you're shocked because she's way more beautiful than you were expecting, or blonde when you were really hoping it was a brunette. Whatever that might be, you need to be able to smile at people, be warm and welcoming, and greet them in a mannerly way and get to know them. You know, it's when somebody isn't what you expected, sometimes those surprises are not a bad thing. And you might meet a great friend who you have a lot in common with. It could be your next partner. People are not always what we expect. So not having expectations may be something to look at as well. But if you have a very strong picture of what somebody is, let that go and just be open to who walks in the door. That's going to serve you much better. So a surprising first impression, at least practice coming in with kindness and not going, what? Not going to make anybody feel great to see a look of surprise on your face. Number 3, I'm going to start with a very specific scenario, but then make it broader. The first scenario would be telling a joke that you then realize either didn't go over very well, or may have been insulting to someone, or was a little too risque, or in general terms, just saying something that then you regret it. And that can happen, and you can do a couple of things if that happens. I do have a fella that went out, and I had to have a talk with him. Your sense of humor is great once you know somebody's personality, but it's not first date humor. Maybe you need to save those jokes rather, until date number 3. How about that for a compromise? But sometimes we just say something stupid, you know, when maybe nerves got the best of us and we share a story we didn't mean to, or we just say something out of nerves that we then feel embarrassed about. And I think that everybody is human. So to just ignore it and move on is certainly an option, but I feel that it makes you much more human and will allow the other person to feel empathy for you if you take the other route, which would be to say, I don't even know why I said that. Could we just like rewind 30 seconds? That I'm a little embarrassed that came out of my mouth. I don't know where. Sometimes I have no filter, and that might be true, and let them know that about you. You don't have a filter all the times when your nerves you're on edge. And you can just say, I'm just kind of nervous about the date, and sometimes I blurt things out when I'm feeling uncomfortable. Let's just rewind, or I didn't even really mean that. I hope I didn't offend you. Just honesty would be the best policy, and also allow that other person to truly know who you really are. It's just a great opportunity for that. So I don't even look at it as a mistake or an error. I think it's a great learning and communicating tool to have done that and have to work through it. The 4th thing that can happen on a date is that somebody just bad-mannered and rude. They're rude to the wait staff, or they're short and snippy with you. They're in a bad mood. That can be a huge turnoff. And your first inclination is probably to say, this isn't working, I'm out of here. Also rude, right? So I would probably give the person the opportunity to explain themselves if they were being rude to you. Have I said something that's offended you? I'm feeling that there's a little bit of an attitude here. Is it me, or did I say something, or are you just not in the mood for getting to know somebody this evening? Do you feel like we should reschedule this? And I know that might make you feel put upon the spot and uncomfortable, but I don't think that you should when someone else doesn't even have the decency to be considerate, thoughtful, and at least, the very least, not rude to you. So if someone were being rude to me, I would likely say, this doesn't seem like we're on the right foot here. Is there something going on that we're not talking about that maybe we should? Or are you not feeling like you want to be here? Because if you want to leave or you want to reschedule, I'm totally fine with that. That's kind of where I would go. But I'm pretty blunt. So I'd say try channeling me and just being blunt. I think that you deserve to be treated better than somebody being rude. And to put them on the spot seems really, really fair because you're just being honest. So I love that. If they're being rude to the wait staff, I think that's different. I think that people will tell you who they are and you just need to be paying attention. And if that does not align with your values, you now have been given a gift to see this person treating wait staff poorly. I would just never go out with them again. And if they ask me why, because sometimes people will do, oh, you don't want to go out with me again? When they call for a second date, I would have to think twice on whether I wanted to tell them. Probably say, it just made me uncomfortable the way that you were talking to our waitress. I don't know, I'd have to think about it. I'm just winging it here, but I would probably say it made me uncomfortable. I'm usually try to be really considerate of waiters and waitresses because I know how hard they're working and I used to be a server myself. So it just kind of made me uncomfortable and I just don't think that we really have a connection based on that. That's my thoughts. Tell me what you think in my comment section. I'd love to hear it. Number 5. Why am I doing this next? No, number 5 in things that can go wrong or happen that would be weird on a first date is, and it happens often, is that you run into somebody you know or your date does. And how do you handle that? I would say it's a common occurrence. I'd say all that you need to remember is your manners. Sometimes it just catches us off guard and we forget that we're with somebody and these two people don't know each other and that the proper thing to do is to introduce them. Now I realize that when you're caught off guard like that, sometimes you can forget people's names, especially if you're in your 50s and names are escaping us every day. They're just running out of our heads. I don't feel that it's a requirement that you tell how you know the person, especially if they were somebody you dated previously. But you can say, this is my friend, James. I'd like you to meet my date this evening. This is Michael. And then I would probably keep your little chit chat with the person you ran into brief because you don't want to be rude to Michael, your date. Really lovely bumping into you here. Have a great evening. And you are not obliged to tell the other person who that was if it was your ex, but you can just be casual about it. Say, oh, that was that was a guy I dated, a couple years ago. I never recommend talking about past relationships or dating on dates, but I know that it happens quite often. I'll have a gal who goes out with a date and it's at a place that he may know people there because he frequents it often, if it's more in his neighborhood, or they've run into people he works with or gals that he dated or female friends, and you never know. Don't assume that that person is, just because it makes somebody uncomfortable, that it was somebody they dated. It could be somebody from work and they're just not used to seeing them out in social situations. So don't make assumptions, and I wouldn't bother even asking about it unless the other person volunteers. But if you're put in the position where you're on the date and you see somebody you know, I wouldn't do the I don't see you situation. I would be polite and say hello and introduce the two people and then go on to enjoy your date. That's how I would handle that. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I'm sure there's more. If I think of a bunch more, I'll make a part 2 to this episode. If you have any that you've dealt with and have a way to fix it or would like my opinion on how I would recommend my clients handle that situation, just leave it in my comment box down below. That would be awesome. While you're there, subscribe and hit the ring bell so you're notified every time I upload a new episode. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And until we see each other again, have a good one.